Bauer's new book drags Meghan Markle and Harry into a paternity storm, now shaking their marriage.
With a narrative, the moment this story surfaced, it didn't arrive quietly. It crashed in like a glass-shattering rumor bomb that no one could ignore. Tom Bauer didn't tease it. He didn't soften it. He came out swinging with claims that felt designed to rattle the very foundation of what people thought they knew about Meghan Markle, Prince Harry, and the story they've sold the world for years. According to Bauer, this wasn't just another book. This was unfinished business. A continuation of a story that never really closed after events shook the royal ecosystem back in 2022. Back then, he painted Meghan as someone obsessed with narrative, control, power, and image. This time, he's going even further, digging into rumors that were once dismissed as fringe gossip and pulling them straight into the spotlight. He claims the book pulls together years of tracking, leaked documents, private communications, and testimony from over 80 sources, former staff, internal emails, people who stayed silent until now. And right at the center of it all sits one explosive question that no one wants to touch directly: whether everything about Archie's paternity is exactly as it's been presented. The trigger point, according to Bauer, was Harry and Meghan's 2024 trip to Colombia. Publicly, it was framed as a humanitarian mission under the Archie banner, fighting discrimination, promoting digital safety, empowering vulnerable communities. The kind of polished PR trip that's supposed to generate glowing headlines and inspirational clips. But Bauer says the public itinerary was only half the story. He claims that behind the scenes, private schedules were running parallel to official appearances, meetings not disclosed, movements unexplained, and connections that, according to him, stretch back far further than anyone expected, all the way to 2018 when Meghan was pregnant with Archie. That's where the whispers start to turn uncomfortable, because Bauer doesn't outright accuse. He does something far more dangerous. He points to gaps, unanswered overlaps, timelines that don't neatly align. And he keeps repeating one thing over and over: if nothing is there, why does the paper trail keep resurfacing? Then social media lights the match. Images begin circulating, allegedly from 2024, showing Meghan at a hotel in Bogota, close to a man never publicly introduced. Moments captured that netizens freeze frame obsessively. Body language. Proximity. A cross-adorned bracelet that suddenly becomes its own character in the story. People start matching travel times to private itineraries Bauer references. Dates begin lining up in ways that feel a little too neat to dismiss as coincidence. And suddenly, what was a book teaser turns into a full-blown online feeding frenzy. Is this another manufactured witch hunt? Or is this a story that's been buried so long it's finally forcing its way to the surface? Just when it feels like the speculation might burn itself out, another voice enters the picture. Not a celebrity, not a pundit, not someone chasing fame. A villa cleaner. Weeks after the Colombia trip, this person goes live. No polished setup, no PR team. Just someone who says they never imagined they'd be speaking publicly about something tied to a royal adjacent scandal. They're careful with their words, they don't describe rooms, they don't name behavior, they focus on one thing only: a suitcase. They say it had Meghan's name etched in a distinctive way, easy to identify. And when it was open to return it through proper channels, what they saw wasn't clothes or travel clutter, it was documents, neatly clipped, printed emails, and the thing they can't shake, the date. Over and over again. They say they didn't read line by line, but headers are headers, dates don't hide. And references inside those documents pointed directly to the period of Archie's pregnancy. Not vague, not inferred. Explicit enough to stand out immediately. What escalates it further is the name attached to those emails. A figure media later begins calling a Colombian mining tycoon, or at least someone directly linked to mining operations in Colombia. Company identifiers, names. Clear enough that the witness insists they're not guessing. They emphasize this again and again. They took nothing. No photos, no copies. The suitcase was sealed and passed on immediately because they knew crossing that line would destroy their life. But the unease didn't disappear. They stayed silent for a long time. time. Afraid of lawsuits, afraid of being labeled a liar chasing money, afraid of losing everything. And now they say they're speaking not to accuse, but because they can't live with the feeling of holding a secret that doesn't belong to them. On its own, each detail could be brushed aside, but together they form a pattern that's hard to ignore. Printed emails, the 2018 pregnancy window, a Colombian connection, and documents still being carried years later on a trip framed as humanitarian. No proof has been independently verified, no confirmation released, but the silence around the specifics only fuels the fire, because when explanations don't come, speculation fills the vacuum fast. Then comes the family voice. Samantha Markle steps forward, not with a vague rant, not with sweeping accusations, but with a memory she anchors to a specific moment, 2012, right after their grandmother's death. A family already fractured, emotionally raw. She says she went to Megan's place in Los Angeles looking for connection, closure, something familiar. Instead, she says she opened the door to a scene she never forgot. Megan stepping out of a room with a man she didn't recognize. A man with a South American accent that immediately stood out. The atmosphere, she says, turned tense before she even asked a question. And then comes the line Samantha claims Megan said verbatim, that this is a relationship that helps me go further. I need him for big opportunities. Not emotional, not apologetic, just matter of fact. At the time, Samantha says she didn't challenge it. The family situation was too delicate. She left it alone. But the memory never disappeared. It just stayed buried until now. She claims the man she met in 2012 is the same individual now being referred to as the Colombian tycoon. She points to leaked images. The bracelet. Details she says she's cross-checked over time, patterns that don't feel random to her anymore. She's careful to say she's not drawing conclusions for the public, she's raising questions. Questions she believes are fair given how often the same connection resurfaces across different years. Within hours, Archie responds. A short, sharp statement. Baseless and malicious allegations. Legal action threatened, privacy invoked. But what catches attention isn't what the statement says, it's what it doesn't address. No reference to 2012. No explanation for the documents. No clarification on timelines. And in today's media climate, silence on specifics doesn't calm storms. It multiplies them. Then Tom Bauer drops what he calls the most sensitive element of all. Money. An anonymous source. A former private bank employee in the Cayman Islands. Someone who claims they weren't hunting scandal, just doing routine internal reviews. They say they noticed a pattern. Regular transfers totaling over $2 million between 2018 and 2019. Not one-offs, cycles. From a mining company tied to the Colombian figure into an account linked to Megan. What stopped them wasn't just the amount, it was the notes attached. Loving support. According to the source, that wording doesn't appear in normal commercial transactions. Bauer claims he cross-checked the timing with personal events. Pregnancy, birth. Again, no conclusions drawn, but questions raised. And this is where, according to reports, things implode privately. Harry is said to lose it, not publicly, behind closed doors. He reportedly demands that Megan release Archie's old DNA test papers to end the rumors once and for all. The pressure, sources claim, is unbearable. The humiliation constant. He's described as saying he can't live with the suspicion hanging between them. That if it's all lies, then prove it. End it. Megan refuses. She calls it crossing a line, using their child as proof to satisfy a hostile public. A violation she won't agree to. The argument escalates. Accusations, fear, trust cracking in real time. If you're clean, why are you scared? Harry is said to ask. And that question lands like a blade. Because from that moment, the story isn't about media anymore. It's about doubt inside a marriage. The fallout spreads fast, business partners go silent, emails unanswered, projects paused indefinitely, not canceled, just frozen. The worst possible outcome in reputation-driven industries. Social media shifts from curiosity to suspicion. People stop asking if it's real and start asking what's being hidden. The palace stays silent, and silence becomes fuel. Behind the scenes, insiders describe emotional collapse, rage, exhaustion, paranoia, strategy sessions turning into venting marathons, sleepless nights, fear masked as defiance. There's talk of lawsuits, memoirs, counterattacks. But the damage is already moving faster than any response. In the end, the story doesn't pause because it's resolved. It pauses because it's stuck between two doors, public proof, or prolonged legal war. And until one opens, the questions don't go away. They multiply. And that's the part nobody wants to admit out loud. This story stopped being about rumors a long time ago. It became about erosion. Slow, grinding erosion of trust, reputation, and control. Because once suspicion enters a space that's private, it doesn't just sit there quietly. It eats at everything. People close to Harry are said to describe him as unraveling in stages. First came denial, brushing it off as tabloid noise, then anger, lashing out at advisors, blaming media cycles, accusing everyone of weaponizing lies, and finally, exhaustion. The kind that comes when you realize no matter how loudly you deny something, the doubt still sticks, especially when the silence meant to protect you ends up making things look worse. What hits him hardest, according to whispers, isn't just the outside noise, but the feeling of being trapped. Trapped between defending his wife and defending his own sense of reality. Trapped between protecting his child and being mocked as a man who won't ask the question. That's where the humiliation creeps in. Quiet, but corrosive. Because every headline, every comment thread, every viral clip becomes a reminder that people are laughing while he's spiraling. And on Meghan's side, the pressure cuts differently, but just as deep. Those close to her say she feels hunted. Not questioned, hunted. Like no matter what she does, the narrative has already decided who she is. A manipulator, a liar, a woman hiding something monstrous. And when the conversation shifts to her child, that's where her defenses harden completely. There is no compromise there, no middle ground. She sees the Ditna demand not as proof, but as surrender. Once you give the world that, what boundary is left? Insiders say that's when the relationship slipped into a strange limbo. Not officially broken, not publicly separated, just pause. Different spaces, minimal communication, conversations reduced to logistics. Lawyers quietly consulted, not necessarily for divorce, but for protection, for strategy, for what comes next if this doesn't blow over. Meanwhile, the public keeps building its own version of events. Every old clip gets rewatched. Every past interview gets reinterpreted. Smiles are analyzed, pauses are dissected, silence is treated like confession. And once that collective story hardens, it becomes nearly impossible to reverse. Even facts struggle to compete with a narrative people feel emotionally invested in. That's the cruel irony here. The very thing Harry and Meghan accuse the royal system of doing to them, shaping perception through silence and distance, is now happening to them from the outside. And they're learning the hard way how little control you actually have once the machine decides to run. At this point, there are only two outcomes anyone sees. Either something concrete gets released that shuts this down instantly, or this drags on through courts, books, leaks, and counter leaks until everyone involved is too damaged to recover cleanly. No fairy tale ending, no triumphant comeback, just survival. And for the audience watching this unfold, the frustration is palpable because clarity feels so close yet completely out of reach. One document, one explanation, one decisive move, and yet nothing comes. So the waiting continues, the speculation thickens, and the question that hangs over everything isn't just about paternity anymore. It's about how much silence a story can withstand before it collapses under its own weight.